Greetings, fellow Gorehounds. So while it's true the Writers Guild have reached a tentative agreement and will most likely be ending their strike soon, SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Guild, is still currently on strike, so I'm going to include a link to them and to the Entertainment Fund in the description below so that you can help them out more directly. And as I've been saying a lot lately, the corporates, support the unions, and let's get to this review. Greetings, fellow Gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
And I'm Count Jackula.
And today we're going to talk about No One Will Save You, which is a Hulu original film by writer-director Brian Duffield. He's mainly known as a writer, and he is a writer that I used to look forward to everything he made. He is the writer of The Babysitter. He is the writer of Underwater. He is the writer of Love and Monsters. He recently wrote that Skull Island animated TV show.
Yeah.
So he likes monsters.
Yeah, he likes monsters. Now, Underwater, that's the one where it has Kristen Stewart.
Yes.
Right? Okay,
yes.
Great. All right.
Which again, he loves those monsters.
Yeah, he loves monsters.
And he previously directed a film called Spontaneous from a few years back that I fucking adored.
Yeah, the one that was like the big metaphor for school shootings.
Yes,
yeah.
The school shooting metaphor where everyone just spontaneously combusts and like the teenagers just kind of have to deal with the grief of that.
Yeah.
But it's a comedy.
Yeah.
So it's really fucked up.
It's a black comedy.
It's really fucked up. I really liked Spontaneous, but this movie is very different than a lot of the things he's written. The closest thing it is to is Underwater, because everything else he has written up until this point is filled with snappy, funny dialogue.
Yeah.
This movie has virtually no dialogue.
Yeah, there's only one line of discernible dialogue in the whole movie.
The rest of the movie is told completely visually, which to me feels like an exercise from someone who spent most of his career writing. It's just like, I'm going to prove I can direct the shit out of a movie with no dialogue.
Yeah. There's only one point of dialogue, one moment where someone says something, and it's very important.
And he does a fucking phenomenal job. The idea of this movie is you have this girl who, as we learn through the visuals of the storytelling, recently lost her mom and a while back lost a friend.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of become this recluse living in her mom's old house in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, she's like this cottagecore recluse in the middle of this like rural town somewhere in Kentucky.
And you get the vibe that the town doesn't like her for one reason or another, which we'll get into in the spoiler section because they actually do go into that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for her, with no one there to save her because no one likes her and there's no one around, an alien invasion happens right outside her door.
Yeah.
And she has to fight off aliens.
Yeah, and they are alien greys.
Yes.
They're the big, like triangular heads with big eyes.
One of the cool things of this movie is that there's different alien designs, but they all clearly come from the same species.
Yeah.
And one of them is the alien gray.
Yeah, the classic one.
Then they have like little dwarf ones with little claws.
Dwarf ones with big long arms that jump.
And then they have these giant spider-like ones that are massive. They're kind of like if you were to take the design of the Greys and slap it onto Cloverfield.
Yeah.
They're huge.
And they're gigantic. They're like 20 feet tall.
Yeah.
Greetings, my fellow Gorehounds, post-production guru here. So while I was editing this vlog, I found out that apparently the aliens in this movie actually have official names. There's the Grey, which are the standard humanoid ones. There's the Daddy Longlegs, which is the giant kaiju ones. And then there's the Little Fuckers, which are the tiny small dwarf ones, which is just a glorious name, and I had to share it with you. There is, of course, a fourth one, but that one's a spoiler, so let's just get back to the review.
So it's this one girl with no one to turn to having to survive this alien apocalypse that's happening outside her window, inside her house. And at certain points in the movie, she leaves the house, but the beginning is in the house.
Yeah, I really like this movie.
Me too.
There are some times when the dialogueless conceit, sometimes it runs a little thin.
There are moments like when she goes into town and like characters express things to each other non-verbally in a way where if this were real life, someone would would have said something.
Yeah.
Even if it was just under their breath, but no one does, obviously to keep the conceit.
Exactly.
And it can wear a little thin, but if you can get over that, this is one of the most tension-filled movies of the year.
Well, the other thing that's interesting about this is that with the exception of Underwater, most of the films he has written are comedies.
Yes.
Yeah, this is funny, but it's not a comedy.
It's not a comedy, but there are really funny moments.
Yeah, there are funny moments.
But most of the movie is more of a tense horror action survival situation.
Yeah, it's a survival situation. Yeah.
And while there is funny moments, for the most part, it's all about, holy shit, this is happening now.
Yeah.
Holy shit, this is happening now. What do I do? And her trying to figure out how to survive the scenario. A lot of the way the movie's constructed, weirdly enough, reminds me of Spielberg, but it also has like a much meaner bent to it than Spielberg does.
Oh, yeah. I would go with Stephen King, actually.
Stephen King?
I felt waves or impressions of like maximum overdrive.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
It doesn't have anything to do with cars, but there's a little bit of that like meanness.
Yeah.
When shit happens.
It's a meanness that just makes everything the main character accomplishes in this movie feel even more earned. Because the shit that's happening is just so awful.
Yeah. It feels a little bit like a segment from like the original Creepshow.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Because you're like, it's scary, and then something happens, you're just like, what?
And the good news is that its conceit like manages to survive throughout the entire movie. You will reach the end and still be invested in this movie.
Yeah, it still works. One of the things I thought was kind of interesting is that, it's like, what if the Close Encounters were like Gremlins? Ooh, maybe Joe Dante is what
Joe
I'm thinking
Dante, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see some Joe Dante in this, 100%. Especially since there's a lot of really cool creature effects in this. Now, I cannot
really
tell how much of it was done practically, but I can tell there was a lot done CGI-wise, and it looked great. Like, it looked phenomenal.
Yeah, however they did it, it worked perfectly.
And like the cool, like inhuman way the aliens moved and turned around, where like each of their joints moved before their head, it was really unsettling.
Yeah, like some of the aliens can fucking turn 180 degrees on their spine, and they literally just, like they
And I'm not going to tell you exactly what the ending of this movie is, because that's a spoiler. We'll talk about it in the spoiler section. But I will tell you, you will not see this fucking ending coming, because I did not.
No, because I was like, how are we going to end this fucker?
It is simultaneously a happy and a dark ending. I don't know how to describe it. The way it ends is not a way I've seen any movie like this end before.
No. Usually this ending is like the reveal that happens in a completely different movie that you see in a flashback.
Yeah. Which, again, we'll talk about it in the spoiler section. So yeah, I highly recommend this movie. So far, this might be one of my favorite things that Brian Duffield has ever made.
Yeah.
And I love all his other movies, the ones he's written and the one he directed before. But this movie feels like he had something to prove. And damn if he didn't prove it.
Yeah, it's very well done. I think it is my favorite movie that he's done.
Of all the movies that came out this year and hit streaming and didn't hit theaters, this is a movie where I'm actually really sad it didn't go into theater.
Oh, this would be a great theater movie.
Because so much of this movie is like really awesome sound design and like super tense visuals, and like in a theater with a big huge screen and the big surround sound going.
Yeah.
That would really like even improve this movie more.
Yeah, because even after find out that it's aliens, there's still like plenty of like paranormal activity shit that's going on.
100%. And the sound design in this movie, like, I was noting all the cool, weird noises that I hadn't heard before in the movie. And it was really well done.
And I like the whole way the movie is crafted, because we haven't seen like this much stage crafting for a scare since like the really good paranormal activity films. And this is not a found footage movie, by the way. It's a movie.
Hitchcock.
Hitchcock.
There's a lot of Hitchcock in this, which kind of comes in with also there being some Spielberg in this, because Spielberg loved Hitchcock as much as anybody else.
Oh, God, yes.
But maybe Hitchcock was who I was thinking of when I was thinking of like the meanness.
The meanness? Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Good evening. Well.
At the same time, it weirdly
weirdly has this Spielbergian heart to it that almost feels like it shouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah, because it's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's like, what if Spielberg made his movies with a super fucked up sense of humor?
Congratulations, Brian Duffield. You made a movie that has us talking about Spielberg and Hitchcock in the same breath. That means you've done it. You've succeeded.
Good stuff.
Absolutely. No One Will Save You is a Hulu original, so it is currently available on Hulu. I have no idea if they'll ever release it on like a home video release, but I hope they do because I really do want to own this.
Oh yeah, it's a really good movie.
But if not, it will be available on Hulu unless Hulu decides to do that bullshit where it just pulls one of their original movies and then we never see it again. This movie seems to be pretty popular online, so hopefully it will stay. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, let us move on to the spoilers. The first spoiler of this movie is that there's a chunk of this movie that's kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yep, the aliens are invading the town. They also are taking people over with these little fucking parasite monsters that go down people's throats and then like take over their minds.
Reminded me a little bit of The World's End, which is another...
At World's End, yeah.
No,
yeah.
At World's End was the Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Oh, right.
The World's End is the Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright movie inspired by
Invasion of the Body Snatchers and They Live and all those movies.
Which is another movie that has a very surprising ending to something like this, but it's a different ending.
Yeah.
That's the first spoiler. The next spoiler is, it turns out the main character is kind of hated by the rest of the town because when she was younger, she killed her best friend.
Yeah.
The one she lost in the past. She got in a fight with her and hit her with a rock, and she did not get up. And this is something that has haunted her and tormented her for years, and everyone looks at her differently ever since.
Yeah, they don't tell you what they were fighting over.
No, because it doesn't ultimately matter. When you reach this point, right, where something bad happened after an argument with someone, and it's been like over 10 years, there's a point where you don't even remember what you were arguing about before the tragedy happened.
Yeah.
You just remember that you had the argument and that you regret everything that happened afterwards.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how this movie handles it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what caused the argument. What matters is that it happened and then tragedy.
Yeah.
And the tragedy was 100% her fault.
Yep.
And we find this out in the movie because the aliens start to probe her mind.
Yeah.
And so we start getting these flashbacks through the aliens probing her mind, first by like sticking one of those fucking little
those monsters.
Those little monsters in her, but then she's in the most badass fashion, like cannot be replaced by the aliens, pulls it out of her own goddamn throat. And then later in what almost feels like an alien trial, where like all the aliens are like surrounding her and like seeing her memories together. And that's where we get like the full truth of what happened. And this leads into the most fucked up and yet happy ending I've ever seen in a movie like this. The movie ends with the aliens, they decide to still take over the world and take over everyone's body and replace them with the aliens, but let her be herself and live amongst the aliens in this new Invasion of the Body Snatchers world where now everyone likes her and cares about her, and she gets to live her happy like dream life and everyone else is either dead or replaced.
Yeah.
It's really fucked up.
Yeah.
But it is kind of one of those good for her because she kind of got what she wanted out of that.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of like Midsommar.
I was about to say, it's like Midsommar.
Where it's dark and fucked up and, oh, geez, that might be going too far. But at the same time, good for you.
Yeah.
I have a feeling as this starts to reach more mainstream people, that ending is going to be divisive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a cult movie ending.
Because it is not the ending that any fucking screenwriting teacher would tell you to go with, right? Like,
oh, exactly. Yeah. Like, there are a lot of things that no screenwriting teacher would tell you to do in this movie.
Yeah.
You know, dialogueless for one.
True.
You know, telling certain stories in flashback is another thing you're not supposed to do.
Yes.
You know,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's just full of shit you're not supposed to do in a screenwriting
and yet it all
class.
Works.
Yeah, it all works.
She has that one flashback where she sees a version of her friend, but grown up.
Yeah.
And apologizes to her.
Yeah.
This movie weirdly kind of becomes like her way to work through having killed her best friend.
Yes.
And then come out the other end a much more complete person, but at the expense of the entire world. This movie doesn't really have much in the way of social commentary. It's completely a personal journey for this main character.
Yeah.
It is her personal journey of dealing with this thing that she did, coming out the other end, and also surviving an alien apocalypse, and coming out the other end and learning to live with the alien apocalypse. Which is kind of like a metaphor for living with what she did.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
It's pretty fun.
It's pretty fun.
It's a fun movie.
I love this. I was looking forward to this movie. I knew he made it, so I was looking forward to it based on that. And I saw the trailer, and the trailer looked really fucking good, but I did not expect this movie to shoot up to like number 4 on my top 10 list like right away.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just so fucking good, you know? Top 10 of the year, anyway.
Yeah, definitely in the top 10. I'm Count Jackula. You can find me on YouTube. I stream there throughout the week. Check it out anywhere between like 8 and 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is usually when I go on. So you can find me there. You can also follow me on TikTok if you like, Real Count Jackula. You can also follow me on the X Twitter, the twatter, @CountingJack. And hey, follow me in those places, and I'll see you on the stream, because like that's the big thing.
Y'all know me. I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, on Twitch, on Instagram, Blue Sky, Mastodon. Just look up the Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema, and I'll be there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out our Patreon pages. And remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way, but we will certainly accept more. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, if you made it this far into the video, then I want you to comment below, and be sure to comment below using the hashtag Throatopus.
Throatopus?
Throatopus.
Throatopus.
I will spell it right here so you can see the way it's spelled. Work that into your comment however you please. That way I know. That way Jack knows. That way the whole world knows that you have a new kink. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, we got 2 more vlogs to record, so we're going to move on to them. Peace out, and I'll catch y'all later.
Throat fisting.